Okay, we're in our red letter series, The Value of Humanity, Withered Hands and Sabbath Work. Withered Hands and Sabbath Work. What do you think? This is Matthew chapter 12, verses 9 through 13 or so. I'm going to read this passage and let's see what we're going to talk about this coming Sunday at A Place to Talk. Sure would love to have you join us. It's casual. You dress as you are. I usually wear shorts and t-shirt to church on Sundays. You say, Josh, you can't dress like that to church on Sundays. Well, most churches have a sermon and music and all of that kind of stuff, but a place to talk is just a very casual place where you come as you are, and we have discussions, and our discussions, the purpose of our discussions are to help us be as Christ-like and as kind and as compassionate to others as possible. And really, that's really our only agenda, is to just get better at helping each other, loving each other, and welcoming others to a community where they can just feel a part. Um, you say, Josh, I'm not sure I'm a Christian. We don't care. You say, Josh, I don't really want to be converted. You won't be. Um, Josh, I really don't want to be preached to. That Me neither. We will talk together. We will chat together. We will just it's just a place to get out on Sunday morning, sit together, talk together, and just learn a little bit about each other and talk about. We talk about modern news. We talk about what's going on in the world, and we look at Jesus's words. We're going to be in looking at the red letters for a long time, and so we're just going to talk about this text that Jesus said. You say, I'm not even sure Jesus existed. Okay, that's okay. Eh, whether jesus is a whether Jesus is God come to earth, or uh just a unique man, or just a mythological story, none of that um is going to disqualify you. Your ideas about that is not going to disqualify you from just being a friend and talking with us, and that's really all we're going to do. Okay, so Matthew verses chapter 12, verses 9 through. Here we go. Going on from that place, he went into their synagogue, and a man with a shriveled hand was there. Looking for a reason to bring charges against Jesus, they asked him, is it lawful to heal on the Sabbath? He said to them, if any of you has a sheep and it falls into a pit on the Sabbath, will you not take hold of it and lift it out? How much more valuable is a person than a sheep? Therefore, it is lawful to do good on the Sabbath. Then he said to the man, stretch out your hand. So he stretched out his hand, and it was completely restored, just as sound as the other. All right, so we're going to ask some questions about this text today. Let's start with, what counts as work on the Sabbath? There's a lot of fighting and debating. And honestly, I almost want to just X this question already, because if you're getting into the debate about what is and is not work on the Sabbath, I think you're missing the point. And I think, or maybe that is making the point for Jesus there. Why are we debating and talking about whether or not we can love somebody and help somebody and do good on the Sabbath? It's just insane. It's asinine. If you've been a part of lots of debates about what you can and can't do on the Sabbath, and you've not been part of lots of debates about how you can help and serve and love people, then you've missed the bleep bleep point. Everything that went through my head was like, things I shouldn't say. I don't want to get banned or kicked off of the internet, so I'm going to watch my mouth. Um, Good night. Anyway, Jesus is Jesus is heals by a word. There's this whole debate about, he didn't do surgery, he didn't physically do anything. He heals by a word. And in Second Temple Judaism, discussions about emergency life-saving treatments, they overrode Sabbath restrictions, but this was not a life-saving thing. This man's withered hand was not going to kill him, and so Jesus is going farther beyond this. idea that you can save life on the Sabbath. If you have to work to do so, it's okay. Here, Jesus is saying you can just do good on the Sabbath, period. Do you see here how Jesus uses the lesser, greater example? In other words, sheep are much less than a man, and man or woman or humanity. We talked a lot about last week about how I think that's something that's greater than the temple is here, Jesus said when he was in the temple. I think what he was saying is that humanity is greater than the temple. And here, Jesus is going on to say a human's life is more important than a sheep's life. And so he's saying sheep less, man greater, man more important, save life, do good, heal people. Anything that you can do that's good and healthy on the Sabbath is allowed. It's kosher. It's good. Evidently, animals were falling in pits. I'm sorry. Evidently, animals falling in pits was a common thing. It happened a lot. I'm sure you've seen that viral video where they pull the sheep out of the pit, and it just turns and it takes off running and it falls right back in the pit. Evidently, that was a much more common thing in the past. It was very funny to us. I'm sure people in the first century would not have found it funny. They would be like, "Oh God, I just dug my ox out of out of the pit, or I just dug my sheep out of the well." Luke 13, Luke 14, the Mishnah Shabbat 18:3, Exodus, they all mention animals in pits. So this was a common occurrence. Jesus again here answers a question with a question. They say, "Is it lawful?" Jesus says, "Let me ask you a question. If a sheep falls in a pit, do you think that's a skill that he learned and he developed, or do you think that was just his natural communication style? And if it was natural communication style, is that something we should consider and think about and maybe add to our life, or something maybe we should practice and use in conversation?" Um, Go read Mark chapter 3, 1 through 6, and Luke 6, 3, 6 through 11 as you prepare for this conversation this coming Sunday. See if you see anything different about those passages. See if anything stands out. When you read it in a different text or a different translation or a different from a different author, see if it makes a difference. And let's talk about those differences this coming Sunday. Jesus said, "Therefore it is lawful to do good on the Sabbath." What license do these words give Christian believers? If we have the license to do anything that is good on the Sabbath, does it give us a lot of license? What are some other, let's see, did I ask this question in my notes? Uh, I didn't, so let me ask it this way. What are some other things that might be more modern examples of a sheep falling in a pit, like maybe if you ran out of gas on a Sunday or a Saturday, whatever you worship as whatever you practice as the Sabbath. Honestly, I just got to say, I don't really practice a Sabbath day. Um, I remember as a kid, we would we'd go to church on Sundays, and they were really careful to, sometimes, you might have a potluck, and people talked about, well, how they put it in the crock pot and they cooked the night before, and they were careful not to cook or work on the Sabbath. And on days that we had potluck, it was, that was something that people did. But every other Sunday we'd just go out to lunch after church, and I thought, aren't we making all these other people work on the Sabbath? It's just I don't really practice a Sabbath day. I do look for ways to rest and be thoughtful and be worshipful in other times and places on a regular basis. Um, I'm doing more intentional, making more intentional attempts to get up and walk outside on a daily basis, and just listen to nature and listen to God. A lot of times you might see me on TikTok. I'll make a post thinking about this coming Sunday's conversation, because that's what I'm doing. I get up, I get exercise. My watch tells me stand up, and so I stand up, I walk outside. And it's sometimes in those moments that I'm thinking about Sunday, because I'm kind of meditating on what we're going to talk about that week. And I shoot out a TikTok or a quick video and say, here's part of what we're going to talk about. So I don't really have a Sabbath day, but I have moments of rest built into my schedule. All right, last question for this coming Sunday. When Jesus told the man to stretch out his hand, do you imagine Jesus was telling him to do something that that most of this man's life seemed impossible to him? Stretching out his hand was something that this guy did that was new. Was it? Was Jesus, does Jesus ask us to do things that we think are impossible to us, to stretch our lives? How has your faith and your relationship with Jesus stretched you in the past? Um, I hope we can stretch each other this coming Sunday at A Place to Talk. Look forward to seeing you there.